What's up, people? This is Straight Up with Nate, and I'm Nate. So before I get into anything, if you are new to the channel, by all means, like, share, comment, subscribe. Of course, it is a very big deal. I do appreciate it. Whether you subscribe, whether you don't subscribe, is up to you. By all means, I appreciate you by even just watching the video. So I'm not going to take too much of your time, but I'm going to get right into it. So, it's okay to be single. Before you tune out, let me explain. Now, a lot of the times we go through day in and day out, we see a whole bunch of relationship goals, we see a whole bunch of things, we see a whole bunch of ideas that are put out there about relationships, about a whole bunch of stuff and things of that nature. But, you know, when do people actually have a conversation about really saying that it's okay for you to be single? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying those who are in a relationship or you found that significant person or you are married or things of that nature that, you know, you can't tune in. No. It's, of course, pass it on to the next person who, you know, definitely would be encouraged by this. Take it from somebody who is single and, you know, I am okay with it. And it took some time for me to be okay with it. And that does not mean that if you are single, something is wrong with you. No, it means sometimes there is a season for you to be in marriage and there's also a season for you to be single. And I think a lot of times people want to rush getting into a relationship, rush getting into marriage, rush getting into all these different things without really considering what does that mean. So the verse I want to attach to this, and yes, I'm going to go to the Bible, yes, I'm going to trust in God about this, but the verse that I have in mind is Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1, in which it says, "To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven." I think a lot of times we look at relationships and we think that I want that, I want this, so on and so forth, but we don't really understand what really goes into a relationship, what is really there, and why somebody takes the responsibility and the purpose for someone to be in a relationship. Now, like I mentioned before, there's a season for every single thing. There's a season for you to be in a relationship, and there's also a season for you to be single. Now, just because you are single does not mean that something is wrong with you, or that you're not loved, or that people are not watching or not interested in you. Sometimes the reason why God keeps them away from you is because some may be predators. And I'm not talking about predators in the context of sexual abuse or emotional abuse or verbal abuse. I mean predators in the context that they want to prey on your value, they want to prey on who you are, they want to prey on your character, and thus making them predators in a metaphorical sense. So being single is not the worst thing on earth. Oh my God. A lot of times people, when we talk about it, when they hear the idea of being single, they think like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna die alone, I'm never gonna be happy, I'm never gonna experience life, do things on a level in which I want to. No, sometimes the reason why you have to be single is because there's a lot you have to do. So I'm gonna give a couple of ideas. So the first one is, you need to be single to discover yourself. For me personally, when I say discover yourself, I mean in the context of really taking time to get to know what do you like, what don't you like. And that could be in the form of making a list, and on one side you write the good, and on the other side you write the bad. Things that you know you want to, you know, that are great about you, things that you know are awesome, things that you know are something in which you admire about yourself, and by all means that's something you mark down for yourself to discover more qualities about yourself that you know would be loving. And on the other side, you want to also write a side, not necessarily to say that it's bad, but to say things that you want to improve in, which is you want to get better with your finances, you want to get better with studying for school, you want to get better in making sure that, you know, you handle everything according to time and circumstance, that you're disciplined in time, you're disciplined in time management, things of that nature. So when you're discovering yourself, you're trying to make time for yourself to really also engage in self-care, engage in self-discovery, engage in moments and times where you get to have conversations with yourself and really understand what is your purpose and your placement in life, right? So, number two, you develop independence. Now, a lot of times you'll see that some people get into relationships because they're dependent upon another person, or they're dependent upon having a relationship with another individual. And I think it's very, very dangerous to do that, because now you're going to be dependent on the person for value, you're going to be dependent on the person for finances, you're going to be dependent on the person for understanding and as well as comprehension for yourself. I think it's important to really understand how to develop independence, because a lot of times we take relationships for granted without realizing that before you enter a relationship, you have to have an identity for yourself. You have to have a level of standard for yourself. You have to develop yourself in a way that, apart from your significant other, apart from your husband, apart from your wife, apart from your boyfriend, apart from your girlfriend, apart from your fiance, things of that nature, you have to understand that you are yourself. You are an independent person. You are singular before you are plural. And when I say that, it's to really understand that when you're getting into a relationship, yes, it is awesome that two people have found each other, they love each other, they're trying to develop a relationship which can later lead down to marriage. However, it's important to really develop that self-identity so that you know and you are aware that apart from this person, I have my finances together. Apart from this person, I have my understanding. Apart from this person, I have something for myself. Apart from this person, I have my mindset, I have my experiences, I have my development in which I have gone through. That alone, it gives me my identity, my purpose, my characteristics. It makes everything along with me to come together effectively. So, number 3, increase self-value, right? One of the reasons why I added this one, some people may feel like the first 3 may connect, but they're different in different ways, right? So when I say increase self-value, that means, like I mentioned before, self-care, but also at the same time learning new skills. When you learn new skills, it also increases the value of self. Why? Because it shows that you are knowledgeable, you have understanding, you have experiences, you have a lot of things in which enable you to operate, move, talk, and act in a certain way that allows others to know that this person is not, just out here doing whatever, but they actually have understanding, comprehension, and capability to do blase. So definitely make sure you want to make sure that you increase your self-value by acquiring skills, acquiring knowledge, acquiring understanding. And that means, take some classes, develop a trade, get your degree, or read a book. There's a lot of informational books that are out there about, developing leadership, developing self, developing your experiences, and things of that nature. Number 4, you don't have to do with as much fighting as in a relationship. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying that you won't have fighting or you won't disagree with your significant other when you get into a relationship. By all means, you will disagree. By all means, you will argue. You will have your difference of ideas, things of that nature. Yeah, that's all cute, great, wonderful. But here's my main point. Leading from the first 3 points, which is discover yourself, develop independence, and increasing self-value, less fighting is in the context that you have developed a maturity that when you get into a relationship, there's a level of maturity that both sides understand what they're there to do. It's not, oh, I'm in a relationship because I just love him. Oh, I'm in a relationship because I love her. No, it's we're in a relationship. We know we're called to be together. We know we love each other, but we also understand that we build one another. And because we understand our purpose, we understand what we're called to do, we understand what we're here to do for one another, that it leads to less arguing, it leads to less conflict, it leads to less confrontation, and it leads to less problems. So when I say less fighting, it's okay to be single because you develop that understanding for yourself as well as what you're capable of, so that when you're getting into a relationship, there's no room for fighting, there's no room for conflict, there's no room for confrontations and things of that nature, because what you have developed within yourself prevents you from having to fight with your significant other because you have understanding and guidance. So, number 5, develop your financial literacy. I cannot explain this enough. Take it from one person who used to have bad financial literacy. It is important to have great financial literacy. And why do I say that? The reason why is because, 1, it allows you the capability to know where to invest your money. 2, it helps you to make worthy financial decisions. It also keeps you conscious of where it is your money should go. And I think a lot of times when I say you're developing financial literacy, it's also to understand that whether you know it or not, relationships cost money. And I'm not talking about gifts or going out to restaurants and this, that, and the third. I'm also talking about in long term. And I mean in the context that if your relationship is going to lead to marriage, that also means you have to also consider, okay, how do I invest money that's going to lead me to make proper financial decisions that I can pay for a wedding, I can pay for a home, I can buy a family car, I can also invest into a college tuition for my children. I can invest in a trust fund for my children. I can also make investments in the right places that later down the line, I'm going to reap what I have sown. Again, developing financial literacy will also give you an opportunity to take yourself out from category A, which is someone who's financially struggling, and into category B, which is someone who has financial understanding and freedoms to make certain decisions. So, with that, there are times where people ask me, why am I single? I'll give you the most transparent answer. It's because for me personally, there are things I have to work on, things I have to develop, things I have to experience before I welcome an idea of having a relationship with anybody. And that also means also working through things that I'm struggling with myself. Now that does not mean that, oh, whatever it is I'm struggling with, oh, Nate's not gonna grow, Nate's not gonna get better, so on and so forth. But I understand I'm in a season to be single because there are things I have to put together, things I have to set up. And then once I get to that place, maybe we'll see what God says, you'll find me in a relationship. But as of right now, I'm single because I feel, praying about it, God has said, now's not the time. There's things I have to work on, things I have to work through. I still have a lot of things I have to deal with in terms of life, work, all that. There's still so much more I have to handle in which I feel God wants me to deal with. So once that's handled, you'll see what happens. So I'm gonna stop right here. If this content did encourage you, if it did enlighten you, if it did give you encouragement, by all means, like, share, subscribe, comment, pass on the message, and of course, I will see you next time.